Okay. Okay. So today I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Benjamin Bishop, a classically trained pastry chef with long-standing fine dining experience before becoming a professional baking and pastry arts instructor. Later, he also had a successful career as a licensed master's level social worker in the mental health field and developed a recovery model that started to gain national attention. Today, Benjamin owns his business as a pastry chef entrepreneur and educator, creating elaborate custom orders and teaching pastry arts classes for individuals, groups, and special events. Love, love, love.
Hi everybody, how you doing? Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. You'll be learning a little bit more about me as we go here. Just before I begin, I just want to say my experiences have made me the person that I am today, just like everybody. I feel that inherently we are more similar than we are different. So my experiences, I have to believe that somebody else has experienced something similar to what I've been going through. So I hope to, kind of touch somebody as we go forward, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A session afterwards. But thank you, the Chow, for having me. I'm looking forward to talking with all of you today. Um, I'll start out from the very beginning. I'm going to be going through my timeline and a series of events that led up to today and tell you where I'm at. Um, I say this to my mom a lot. I remember distinctly that one of the first memories I've had in the kitchen was making a grilled cheese sandwich with her. And that was kind of like a time where I thought, this is fantastic. I'm taking three ingredients and making them into something like totally different. So I was kind of hooked. Um, Stayed in the kitchen for a while, doing experiments with viscosity, different recipes, substituting ingredients, and I really leaned towards the pastry field personally. I felt that that's where my creative drive could really come through. I also like the idea of temporary art, where somebody had something in front of them and all of a sudden it's gone. It's kind of the visceral kind of connection between visual and taste and feeling good. I like to make people feel good. Middle school started at my first bakery job. I kind of lied about my age a little bit to start there. I had to be 15, but I was actually 14 in order to work into their bakery. Learned different things like temperatures and all that. But my grandmother, she was kind of influential as well. Had to, not had to, but she set up a shadowing experience under an executive pastry chef at a resort hotel. So it was really kind of cool that my family was backing me during this time. Um, I was an apprentice in high school. It was a work release program, if you will. Um, it was a time where I could leave school early in order to have a job in the field that I was suspected to go into. So I worked at a fine dining restaurant, learned dishwashing all the way up to salad, dessert, setting things up for different parties and stuff. But I kind of really wanted to go further. I started, or I applied to and went to an accredited associate's degree private culinary school that was down in Baltimore. And it just kind of grew from there. So I graduated from there, and then I started at my first real job. This was a point where after graduating, I didn't have any of my friends from school around me. My family was a little north of me, so I wasn't very in close contact, but long hours, low pay. It was a strange time where I just kept, working and learning more and more. But it was a time where I was also very alone. I was really excited after working a couple years there that I got hired at a as a first pastry chef by a well-known restaurateur. It was at a hotel restaurant, fine dining, 300 to 400 covers a night. So it was stressful. First time that I was able to hire my own staff, come up with all the menus. Worked there for several years. It was an exhibition kitchen, so strict protocols for behavior. I had always had to be on. I was out going to meet tables for there was some Hollywood elites, some sport figures, governmental officials, famous musicians. You name it, I was probably meet a lot of them. But again, it was a high stress environment. Timing was everything. It was long hours. The chef there, uh, good enough guy, but belligerent towards his staff. I was kind of separate off in my own kitchen, so I kind of stayed away from a lot of it. But I always had to be there and always be on. Um, I found myself that because of the long hours and not being able to eat regularly, I ate what was in front of me, and that was my pastries. So because of that, I gained a lot of weight, and I was almost 300 pounds at that point. I noticed I was sluggish. I was not, feeling well half the time, but I never called off. I never called off at work. And all in all, like we've probably all experienced in one way or another, you never had off for holidays. My family, again, was on the other side of the state, so it took some time to get to them. But I had very limited time off. I was always have to go back for work and kind of split the time. I would go in the morning, have a couple of hours break, and then come back for evening service. Let alone if any of my staff called off, then I would be the one who had to fill in. I do remember at this point too that I got mugged one night, late at night after work. I had to take the bus home, and I got up the next day and went right back to work like nothing happened. It was kind of like a non-point for me, which kind of struggle with that now. Like, why was I not paying attention to that as much? It was a little different of times. I I got kind of bored in that situation. So I moved to another job, and it was a competing restaurant, same busy atmosphere. Um, and it was strange because I was scheduled at times where the other kitchen staff needed to access the one oven that was shared amongst everybody there at the kitchen. I'm a pastry chef. It's kind of difficult to do things without an oven or share an oven with things like slamming and things falling. It wasn't conducive to having my job being done, let alone the fact that I was informed that I would not have any creative input and that I would have to just do the pastries that were already on the menu. So I kind of felt stuck. I felt closed in. And I remember it was probably about 4 months into my working there that I got called into the chef's office with the manager, and I lost it. I broke down. I started crying. I didn't know what was going on with me personally. I think I came to the point where there was a lot of things happening, and I didn't know how to handle it, especially feeling that my creative drive was not being uh, satisfied through the job. So I left. Um, I left embarrassed. I didn't go back, and I didn't feel safe to tell anybody that I wasn't okay. So I kept that down. I kept that inside. Um, I I felt that I needed to take a break, so I did a little bit more of a different avenue and satisfied my creative drive through taking stained glass. I needed something that was a little bit more uh, softer tone, even though I cut myself a lot. But I was asked to be an instructor after just the first class. They needed somebody there, and they saw that I took to it really well, so I did that for a year and a half. During that time, though, I also lost a lot of weight. So from up to close to 300, I was down to 170 at that point, lost a lot of weight. I attributed it to actually taking care of myself and not necessarily eating the pastries that were in front of me because I didn't have access to them. Looking back on that, I don't know if that was really the case. I was pretty depressed. Um, but I kind of pushed through again. I wasn't able to really feel that I felt comfortable to tell anybody that I was having a bad time, personally, emotionally. So there was an opportunity that was going to be opening closer to my family, and that was for an executive pastry chef at a high-end bakery. And it was also a sugar school, so it was right up my alley. I think this would be fantastic for me to work there. I disregarded all my past experiences. I got the interview and I got the job. I believe it was on a Christmas Eve. She called me up. A little bit of foreshadowing because it was late Christmas Eve. Um, I'll get into that in just a second. But it's what I wanted to do. It's what I trained for. It's what I knew how to do. So I disregarded all the negative emotions that I was going through and thought this might be the change. It's always greener on the other side. So I helped plan during their construction, the layout of the shop and the school. But I soon started to realize that the owner may have had some issues herself. There was regular late night calls, probably around 11:30 at night, where if she was working on a project and messed up, she would actually send her husband to my house to come and get me in order to fix her mistakes while she went home. Um, I had to stay till early morning, got yelled at. It was a micromanaging type of situation where I couldn't really function as my job that I was intended to be hired for. So it was a controlling situation. It was extreme pressure to maintain my employees that I hired while engaging the owner. It was an extremely difficult time. The stress of working in a 400 person a night restaurant was a lot different than the emotional stress that was placed on me then. Um, I also, during this time, got married. So why not add some extra pressure on top of that? Um, Unfortunately, it was a year into that marriage that my wife at the time had an alcohol problem. So I tend to seem to put myself in these situations where there's high stress and looking outside of myself, not paying attention to myself. And that just went on for a long time. Um, it was, I think at that point, a trauma response really kind of started to set in with me. Depression set in. I didn't feel that there was anywhere to turn. That was the pressure that I put on by myself. It wasn't that I didn't have people that I could turn to, my family being one of them, but I didn't know where to turn, or I thought I was just feeling embarrassed about my situation. I was always taught in the kitchens that you just have to suck it up and move on. So that's what I did. I was just sucking it up. I needed help, but I left that job very abruptly. I was there one day and the next day I wasn't. Um, I changed jobs after taking some time off. I felt this kind of lull of my personality. I did not feel myself. I felt depressed. I was never felt comfortable and I was always out of place. Again, these are the pressures that I put on myself. So a job came up where I sold commercial kitchen equipment for a while. It was standard hours. It was low stress. I still had the knowledge of what was in the kitchens and was able to work through that and take some time off. Um, but then I got a job as a teacher, as a professional baking and pastry instructor, and it was the best job that I've ever had to this day. I worked with people across the lifespan. I passed on my knowledge to others, but at the same time, I was in my mid 30s and I felt that I did not have enough time under my belt, enough experiences that I would do service to my students. And at the same time, I was working with um, my wife at the time who went to rehab, and I started to insulate myself more. I increased tension with my family because I felt that I was trying to pay attention more to that person that I was living with than what I should have done and reached out for help. I left 3 years later from that job um, because I felt that I needed to give back to the world a little bit more. At least this is what I was telling myself. I needed to give back to the world a little bit more instead of making people fat. So I changed careers completely. I went initially for occupational therapy to become an occupational therapist. But then there was a time where apparently I had a stress-related illness that came about. It was with my thyroid. I was going to a class one day and was doing well enough to pass. This was anatomy and physiology where you had to memorize a lot of different things. And my memory was shot. The one day I just couldn't remember anything. I lost 10 to 15% of my muscle mass and eventually had to leave school because I could not afford the out-of-state tuition. So I battled with a lot of things at that point, failing a class, admitting that I needed to leave school, having the opportunity that I needed to move again, concerned about the well-being and the safety of my wife, living with somebody who had addiction issues, and then having growing strained relationships with my family. It was just a lot of embarrassment. And again, I swallowed it and just kept moving on. Um, I talked to the doctor about that issue, and it seemed that it was stress related only. And I didn't believe him. I was like, nah, it's not stress. This is just what I do. This is what I've become accustomed to. So I moved again back to Pennsylvania and eventually got my master's in social work, a licensed social worker working in the field of mental health. Started to work with people with severe mental illness in crises. And that's what I did for the next 15 years. Which to this day, when I talk to people in the field, even people outside of the mental health field, they are kind of um, enamored, for the lack of a better term, of that I stayed in that field in crisis for 15 years. It's a very emotionally draining part of that field. Um, and that was said in my bio, I started to develop a program that kind of combined a lot of the things that I liked in the culinary industry, and that was food and growing your own food and understanding about health and wellness. So developed a program that was getting national recognition using horticulture and gardening for the individuals throughout all levels of care. Um, During that time, COVID hit. Um, my values changed as an individual because of the healthcare system recognizing people as money rather than human beings. And that's not how I was taught. Even when I went to school for social work, it was like work to put yourself out of a job. And that's what I was trying to do, put myself out of a job because of the things that I was trying to do with the program. So I was disposable. I felt disposable, like in every other job. I was at low pay and not looked at as somebody that could be generating change. So I was emotionally depleted at the end of that. And it also came to fruition that I finally made the decision of divorce from my traumatic relationship. I stayed way too long in that area. Um, Years of mental and financial abuse, paying her debts, threats, and taking blame for things that happened to her that was because of her, jumps from one addiction to the next, all culminated, and I left that situation. And this is where I started to take my power back. I lost myself for a while, working in kitchens over and over and not paying attention to myself and only paying attention to those individuals that were seated outside. I did not look at myself as somebody that was worthy enough to do something for me. So I went to therapy. I learned about my codependency, my negative reinforcement, my negative ways of self-soothing. Anger was something that was prevalent. I was angry at everything. I was angry at the sun coming up. Uh, Major depression during that time. And I realized that I had a high tolerance for stress. Um, it was an abnormal comfort with staying in crisis situations that really made me feel um, almost superhuman. Like, yeah, I can calm down during a crisis situation because this is what I'm used to. I'm used to the evil that is there, so I know how to navigate that. I did not know how to navigate the time where I was calm and I could appreciate the silence that was around me. So basically, it was my cumulative experiences and the history that prepared me for how I reacted to people and situations, which was not at all conducive to the way other people wanted me to act. The way that I look back and I feel that I shouldn't have acted. I know that I was not the best person back then. Um, Changing over though, because of learning about myself and going forward and understanding more about who I was as a person and the power that I had, um, I was actually able to meet my best friend, who is now my wife. We just got married in October, this past October. Yes, I made my own wedding cake because that's what I do. Um, and I truly, I'm not trying to get sappy here, but I never knew it could be like this because of the situations that I put myself in and were comfortable in. I didn't know that my comfort level could be much more. Conducive to calm and being collected. So uh, it was at this point that my now wife, she also encouraged me to open up my own business, to get out of social services, to get out of that emotional drag of a business. And I did. I opened up my own business under my own name. It certainly has its own trials and tribulations. Um, Financials can be a lot better than what they should be, I feel. But I feel like I'm in control now. I can set my own hours. I have the power to say no to people, and I have a voice that I actually use. Um, the kitchen is not my life these days. Before, that's what it was. It was the kitchen is my identity. But I have my own identity now. I'm concerned about my well-being, my health, my mental stability, at the very pinnacle of that. I also met a lot of good people. One of them is my colleague out in Denver, who has joined us today. And we started our own kind of therapy session of sorts. And then we decided that what we are going through, the experiences that we have, we started to think, well, we should probably share that with everybody. So we started the Baking Therapy podcast. And we're there to help process with others and are just talking to the ethereal mass of whatever is out there on the electronic waves. The process on various subjects, from lightheartedness to more visceral talks, and we want others to let them know that they were not alone. Um, and that's how I got involved with CHOW, because we're kind of similar missions. Um, but the kitchens, to kind of wrap up, it's the greatest family that I think that I've ever worked with. The teams that were so close and exact were fantastic. I didn't realize at the time what I was going through. And I mean, physically, I felt the effects of working long hours on hard tile and concrete. My knees and my back, I feel it today. Mentally, I know I became accustomed to working in high stress environments, with the ability to remain calm in situations that others typically have difficulty in. Um, but that high level of stress has certainly taken its toll. You stay in it for too long, it's not healthy for me. So I do miss the rush. Miss the rush of the restaurants. I miss those shared experiences, the trauma of it all, if you will. Once it's gone from my body, I miss it from my mind. I want to be back in it. I want to put myself back into those restaurants, and to have that, the sweat and the tears that go along with it. But I know I can't do that today. Kitchens taught me to be on top and just deal with it, to remain quiet and not speak up. But today I know that I can't do that. I need to speak up. And that's why I'm really glad for this opportunity to kind of share. This is the first time that I was actually sharing on this subject in this way. Like, where was Chow when I was back in the kitchens? Honestly, I think things could have been a lot different if I had the opportunity to share. and be in relationship with others. So um, at times, I think even in my own business that I kind of feel those. I get triggered every so often, but I just have to realize that I need to come back and make sure that my own mental health and wellness is at term. So um, that's my story in the nutshell. So I really appreciate everybody listening and open for questions, and hopefully I can give some answers.